Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Chad Himes, and I am joined by Bob Stewart today. Bob, how are you doing?
Hey, Chad, I'm super excited. We're talking about one of my passions today.
Yes, we absolutely will be. Ben challenged us a few weeks ago on some business profiles. We've asked you, the audience, for some businesses you want us to be looking at in our Facebook group. So make sure you're joining us there, facebook.com/group/WinMakeGive, so you can get your input in. Yet one of the companies we had on our list, Bob, before we even asked everybody, it's probably one of the single most recognizable companies in the world.
Yeah, in the world, most definitely. And from their logo, right? Like not from any words and anythings. Like you see that logo, you know exactly what it is. And it might have the highest brand recognition for a logo of anything in the world.
You know, interesting enough, while you talk about that and everybody's still like, well, what are they talking about? Although if they've read the title of the episode, they probably know who we're talking about, right? Yet there was a study done years ago, and I went to do the research to find the study. I just couldn't find the actual scientific results of it. They asked people, they held up a blank piece of white paper and said, Bob, who's being advertised on this piece of paper? And overwhelmingly, this company was recognized because their advertising is so clean and so crisp that people just assumed that was who was advertising on a blank piece of paper. And without telling you what the logo is, which you'd know, we could just give you the term. The logo actually has a name of its own, which will give away the company.
Let's give them the company,
Or
Chad.
I could give them the 3-word phrase that they have taken to another level. And Bob, that's Just Do It.
Yeah, just do it.
So who are we talking about, Bob?
We're talking about Nike.
Yes, and you said it correctly. Congratulations.
My grandpa used to call them Nikes.
Yes,
right? I think everybody's grandpa called them Nikes, right? Because
I think we all did at one point until someone educated us as to where it's going. Now, I have a love for this company because my connection to the company, of course, is my daughter's a duck.
Oh, yeah.
She's an Oregon Duck, and that, of course, is where Mr. Knight attended and became, he still is a huge contributor. That is why they have the dang best football uniforms each and every week.
I had a friend that played sports at the University of Oregon, and they had nice facilities. Like they were treated very well. If you're an athlete at the University of Oregon, you never long for footwear, right? Like
no, and we were just there. I guess it was last school year, and they were redoing the whole track facility. And you can imagine it's called Tracktown for a reason when Nike's the company behind it. Now, Bob, did you know that Nike actually started as a college assignment?
So of Phil Knight?
It was, yes. While he attended the University of Oregon, before he went to Stanford, right? He was in a class that challenged him to come up with a business plan. And he assumed that shoes could be made more cost efficiently overseas, which was a big thing at that time, and by targeting high school and college athletes instead of targeting adults, where the shoes were usually being targeted. And within 4 years, he and his partner opened a company called Blue Ribbon Sports. Now, how would you feel if you were wearing Blue Ribbon Sports shoes right now, Bob?
I don't think I'd feel as good as I
Probably not as good as the marketing that came along from Nike.
Blue Ribbon, isn't that a beer, Dave? It's Pabst.
That's Pabst in there. That's right. But it was a college project that ended up creating Nike.
You know what's fascinating to me about that, Chad? And this will not be the last time we've seen this. This is not the first time we've seen it, because the first company we talked about, Ben & Jerry's, a couple weeks ago.
Ice cream, yeah.
They took an existing product too, right? They took ice cream and they innovated on it. Phil Knight took shoes. Everybody had them. We've been wearing them for thousands of years in some form or another. We just hadn't been wearing the kind of shoes that he would end up creating, right? This running shoe with the waffle sole and all of those things. And so they took an existing product. We had an awesome interview, and it's coming up here in the next couple of weeks with Killer Dave from Killer Dave's Bread. He did the same thing, and he actually said in that interview, he's like, I didn't invent anything. I just innovated on something. And he did it on bread. Bread had been around for
yeah, exactly,
tens of thousands of years or whatever, right? So That's the first thing that really jumps out. And so I challenge our audience, like, what's something maybe it's the industry you're in. Maybe it's a process in that industry that consumers beat their head against the wall about, like, where could you make innovations? Chad, the largest businesses in our world are generally not inventions. No. They are just tweaks or innovations on some existing thing that we already use or do. And the reason that's so popular is because, like, Phil Knight didn't have to try to convince people to wear shoes.
No, they were wearing them already.
They're wearing them already.
Oh, yes.
Right? So he just had to convince them to wear his shoes, which were better. Right? Ben and Jerry didn't have to convince people to eat ice cream. Killer Dave didn't have to convince people to eat bread. Like, Netflix didn't have to convince people to watch movies. They just convinced them there was a better way to do it.
Sure. It's amazing. And you mentioned the waffle tread, right? And of course, it's referred to as the waffle tread. Why, Bob?
They literally made it with a waffle iron. Their first prototype was made with a waffle iron.
The first prototype shoe, if you did not know, was made on that same waffle iron that you had breakfast making this weekend as you made waffles.
You know what? So I don't know if it was the very first pair, but one of those first prototypes just sold recently for a lot of money.
Like, I can imagine.
I think it was Bill Bowerman or his estate had that shoe, and I just saw the article. It was within the last, I don't know, year or something that one of those original prototypes sold.
And we're going to talk about their shoes specifically and the marketing that comes with it. Yet the reason for the waffle sole was to create those air pockets so that the shoe would actually grip better on a track than all the other shoes before it that pretty much had a flat sole or maybe had some zigzags through it that went end to end and didn't create those holes, which created better traction. So like you're saying, they didn't create something new. They just created a better version of the shoe.
They also did it, they did it in a niche, right? Like, everybody wore shoes. They were going to make shoes for, like, young athletes.
Yes.
Right? And so that today, by the way, everybody could potentially, like, my grandma has a pair of Nikes, right? Like, my mom's got a pair of Nikes. Everybody's got a pair of Nikes.
I will admit, they don't work on my feet. I'm the outstanding guy here.
What?
I do not have a pair. They do not work for me every time I've tried them on.
What? You
have, like, the back
hooves?
Of the shoe
you wear
just doesn't.
You have hooves?
The back of the shoe just doesn't work for me. I'm a Brooks guy when it comes to it. Yet, boy, there's still no company better than Nike for advertising and for the product.
You're wearing, like, a Nike thing around your neck right now. Is that Nike? It's got to be.
Well, it's Oregon, so it's probably Nike, right? So, Bob, here's the amazing. There's so many things we could talk about when it comes to Nike. And when we sat down and said, well, what are the things we want to talk about? The first thing that came to mind to me was that marketing, brand recognition, and how they've done it, and so many different ways they've done it, right? They've done it through sponsorship. So they get people like Jordan and all these things that when we see our heroes wearing them, we want to be just like them, right? We'll talk a little bit about, during our influence and persuasion series, we talked about scarcity. So we're going to talk about how Nike has made such a thing with that. Yet it's interesting, as doing the homework, I'm going to take you back to get to this whole marketing concept and read you the mission statement of Nike. Okay. And the mission statement of Nike, Bob, is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Now, they say if you have a body, you're an athlete. You don't have to be a professional to be an athlete.
So Ben's not here right now, but I'd look at him and I'd look at Dave, and then I'd look at my own belly, and then I'd be like, boys, we're athletes.
There
Nike calls us athletes. Huh?
Nike thinks that you guys are athletes. And what they've done through this, Bob, is they understand they're not selling shoes. They're not selling apparel now with the clothing line they have. They are inspiring people to become better and achieve their personal best, the Just Do It moniker that we've heard for so long. And because of that, people are buying their product and people think, I want to be better. And if I sat down and said, name 5 companies that'll help you be better at who you are today as a complete person, not just in your area of business, you'd probably say a company like Nike, because they're out there always pushing that boundary.
It's funny that they kind of frame it that way. Like, I think about our own business, and at the very end of the day, I mean, we have a lot of different software business, but in one of our primary businesses, we sell real estate, right? We broker real estate, And ultimately, at the end of the day, you like help people either buy or sell their home.
Right.
We don't present it like that. We don't present it like buy our shoes, right? Let us help you buy or sell your home. We really are helping people manage their wealth in real estate, right? And so like the way that Nike kind of frames how they think about their business, they're inspiring people, they're encouraging them to innovate, like, and they buy the shoes because of it. I feel like it's something similar in our business where we're not just saying, hey, we can help you buy or sell a house. We're saying we want to help you build wealth through real estate, and people end up buying and selling houses with us because of that.
Right. And everybody can be doing it. Don't tie your mission statement specifically to a certain product.
Yeah.
Tie your mission statement to something that you could pivot what you're actually selling or what you're providing, yet your mission statement doesn't have to change along the way.
Or maybe not even pivot, maybe add on to it, right? Because you think about it, we started in selling, helping people buy and sell houses, and now we do mortgage, and now we help them with title. We help with that whole process of home ownership, right? The whole dream of owning a home. We're going to cover them in a lot of different ways.
Just like Nike went from shoe to clothing as well and everything else. I mean, they're giving you everything you need. Heck, they have a deal with Apple, right? They got a Nike version of the Apple Watch.
Because you wear that thing when you go for your jogs. Now, I don't even know how to go jogging, but
jogging's not a real thing.
I don't think you wear a Nike Apple Watch, but you could, right?
I could, absolutely. Did you know, Bob? I love the did you knows we get from some of these companies. I mean, I'm still amazed that Ben & Jerry's actually invented
cookie dough
ice cream. I mean, that's been fascinating to me since we came across that. I did not know. Did you know that the swoosh came before the company name?
No, really?
They came out with the swoosh when they were still Blue Ribbon.
Okay.
And they needed to change the branding and the image, and the swoosh was there first. And Knight didn't even like it at first. He wasn't a big fan on it, and they paid $35 for the swoosh.
Wow.
I mean, $35 in 1971.
That was before these like websites where you can go on there and pay $50 to have a bunch of people try to make a design for you, like Fiverr or wherever. But wow, that's $35. Like
$35
somewhere,
and the swoosh came first.
Somewhere somebody's kicking themselves right now that they sold the swoosh to Nike for $35.
She has since been given, wait, let me grab this. She has since been given over $640,000 worth of Nike product later on.
This lady has more shoes in her closet than anybody. What? $640,000 of Nike products? That's insane.
She was a student at Portland State University when Carolyn Davidson invented the swoosh, probably one of the single most recognizable logos out there right now.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating. Now, Bob, you were talking about, because it's a fascination of yours, you were talking about scarcity and the way Nike uses scarcity to actually improve their marketing and their branding. Talk about that a little for us.
Yeah. So if you guys listen to this podcast, you'll hear Ben or Chad make references to my Jordans. And I collect Jordans, right? These Michael Jordan shoes, and they've been around since I think the first Jordan came out in 1987. And so they were something like, as a little kid, my family couldn't afford those, but I'd see the rich kid family at school, he'd have them on. It was just that's something. And I got one pair of shoes when I was a little kid. And so I just, as an adult and so, some of my disposable income goes to buying these Jordan shoes. And look, they come out with, probably at least 2 or 3 pairs a month. So they're doing anywhere from 20 to, let's say, 30 of these Jordan, these old ones, right? These shoes that released originally in 1988 or 9 or 90, or they re-release them. And then they'll take and they'll make they call them colorways, like in the sneakerhead world, the different color variations that a particular model of a shoe might come out in. So you've got, let's say, the Jordan 4, right, which is one of my favorites. It's got, 8 or 10 different color variations. It's got the original variations that released back in 1989, and over the years, they've released different variations.
Bob, take a breath. Everybody okay with us still? Bob's geeking out a little bit here.
I am geeking out. Sorry, I love this stuff.
Keep going, Bob.
So what they do, though, is when they release, let's say they release 30 different pairs this year. They're going to release 30 pairs of Jordans. Some of those pairs, let's say half of them, will be general releases. They'll go out to all the stores. You'll be able to buy them online. And if I show up the day that they drop them, right? That's sneakerhead term, Chad.
Got it. Okay.
They're dropping, right? The day they drop, they're going to be there. I'm going to get a pair, no doubt about it. And I can probably get them tomorrow and the next day as well. But the other half of those pairs, they make some level of limited edition. So we're talking like all the way down to where there might be 100 pairs of this particular shoe that they make, and they make it for, you know, the 30th anniversary of Jordan winning his first title, and they'll make, 100 pairs of this shoe. They'll give one to Michael Jordan. They'll give, let's say 10 or 15 of them out to specific people, and then they'll actually let people buy in these like flash limited releases where they just put them out on this app. You've got the sneakers app that Nike has, right? They just put them out there.
Wait, there's a sneaker app?
Yeah, it's literally called Sneakers. But if you just happen to be on the app that day, you get that shoe. And those shoes can be worth $1,000, right? You buy them for $200, they're worth $1,000. You can literally sell them the next day for $1,000 because there was only 100 pairs of them. And then some of them they release 500 pairs. Some of them they release 1,000 but they might release 10,000 pairs, and that's still a limited edition run. And these shoes, literally the next day, a whole culture has sprung up around the resale of these limited edition shoes, right? In fact, this Adidas saw what was happening here, and they actually made a shoe line with Kanye West. They're called Yeezys. Their entire strategy on Yeezys, which we're going to do the top 10 sellers from last year, and the Yeezy is one of them, or a particular version of the Yeezy. Their entire strategy is that. It's really hard to get your hands on those shoes. But I think what Adidas fails to recognize that Nike recognizes is Adidas basically puts all the Yeezys out like this, right? Where it's really, really hard to get them. Nike only puts half of them out like this. So I can, within a given month, I can always get a pair of Jordans. I can't always get the scarce one, right? Chad, I feel like the science that we talked about in the Persuasion and Influence of scarcity and kind of the studies that have been done on this, they are totally got me hooked from this scarcity angle where sometimes I pine for these shoes. In fact, we've talked about this before. There was a particular shoe that dropped, one of my favorites. I didn't get it. I show up to work that day. We're at a conference. Ben can tell there's something wrong with me. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I didn't get my shoes. And he ended up like getting me that pair of shoes a couple weeks later. I think he's told that story on the podcast before, but this idea of scarcity for them, what it does is it drives me to buy more shoes.
Okay. So they're marketing themselves by actually intentionally not having enough product. They're doing it on purpose to get you more excited, and you'll buy something if you can't get those. Now, Bob, I'm pulling up some numbers here. I'm going to give you a quick little quiz. Okay. You're not expecting this one. Do you know the single record for a pair of shoes being sold? And it's going to be more than you think.
Really? Like 500,000?
It's higher than that.
600,000?
615,000. Now, these are different because these are Michael Jordan game-worn sneakers.
They're the Jordan 1s, right? They're a high-top shoe. Chad, do you have a picture of them there?
I'm opening
They're
up
actually
the picture.
Cracking at the bottom. Like they're 35 years old or whatever. They're cracking at the bottom. I just saw this article. Yeah, 600. How much did you say?
$615,000. Now, I'll give you a quiz. That's an exception to the rule because Michael actually wore those.
Yeah, I think they were the first pair of Jordans that he ever wore in a game. There's something like that.
And I'm not going to ask you
what his first All-Star game or something like that.
I'm not going to ask you what the number one resale shoe is because, again, it is a Nike. It's the 2011 Nike Mag with the limited edition plutonium case. So that's probably.
I think you know what that is. It's the Back to the Future shoe.
It kind of does look like that.
It is that shoe. It's the first time they did a self-lacing shoe. They now sell, by the way, self-lacing shoes. They drop them as limited editions. They're like $400. They call it what? Velcro?
Velcro.
No, dude, these ones have an app, and you like push the button on the app, and it laces your shoe and like ties them up and snugs them to your foot.
It does kind of have that look. Yet if I take those away, do you know what the number one, it's actually the number two then, but the top resale shoe is that's out there? I don't think you're going to get it, but we'll give you a shot here.
The resale?
Resale shoe, yeah. For you collectors out there.
I don't know.
It is the Jordan 3 Retro Oregon Duck promo shoe.
Oh, yeah.
Bob, it has an estimated retail value of $194 with a resale value of $2,000.
So that's one of those limited editions. They probably made it a year. They gave it to all the kids on the football team, all the kids on the basketball team, and they made an extra 100 of them or something to give out to a bunch of donors. You know, I mean, that's the kind of thing they do.
Instead of the signature Jumpman logo. Now, folks, you've seen
It's got the Donald Duck
That's
face on
Michael Jordan doing his slam
dunk,
from the foul line image that you've seen on some of his shoes. It's actually got the duck. It's got a embroidered duck feet on the back
foot
of the shoe.
Okay.
So that's what they've done. All right, so Bob, we've got this company. I mean, they've named the company after the Greek goddess of victory.
Yep.
I mean, that's what Nike is. We've got these guys that started a project in college. All they did was take a product that already existed, made it better, marketed to a different audience than everybody else was marketing.
A niche audience.
Yeah, they went very niche on their audience with high school and college athletes, get them hooked on the shoe at a young age. You know, you were talking about real estate. What would happen if you actually turned your niche audience into college students? Right? They probably wouldn't be buying today, but now all of a sudden, if you've already got the mind share with those people, the way Nike does about shoes, they come out of college when they're finally ready. You're the only company for them.
If you were teaching a class at the local college about, real estate investing,
anything along these lines, then they come up with a mission statement that's not necessarily just about shoes. It's about you being a better you and how they can help get you there through innovation. Now, Bob, I got another. This one's a little kind of dark.
Okay.
It's a little dark.
It is.
but I got another tip for you here. The Just Do It slogan, which we all associate with Nike. We all know it. Do you know? Well, I know you know now because I've told you. Yet, did you know where that had come from?
No idea. In fact, I'm going to go check the validity of this when we get.
All right. Well, we know that Wikipedia isn't always accurate.
Plus, it's pretty good though.
I've seen this on multiple sites.
Okay.
That the Just Do It slogan actually was inspired by the last words spoken by a serial killer before he was put to death when he said, "Let's do it."
And then the guy pulling the switch responded, "Just do it," or the guy telling the guy to pull the switch, "Just do it then," right? That's pretty.
I don't know how, but the advertising company heard that and turned it into Just Do It. And how many times a week do you say it? Does somebody say it to you that you don't even think about the fact that you're using the words "just do it" in your everyday speech?
Dave knows. I'm saying it 4 or 5 times a day to each one of my children. Just do it. Get in here for dinner. Come on, just do it.
All right. So, Bob, some fascinating stuff about Nike. What else do you have before I put you on the quiz of top shoes that you want to hit when it comes to a company as well known as Nike?
I guess the last thing before we go and talk about the 10 most popular shoes from 2019. We did the same thing with ice cream flavors.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to do like with the 10 most popular air flights when we get to like Southwest or something.
The popular routes. The last thing I want to hit on is this idea that they are constantly innovating, right? So the original idea for the company came from this innovation they did on an existing product, but they've never stopped. And, you think about like a Blockbuster, Chad, right? They stopped innovating. Like I don't even know if Blockbuster was really an innovation. It was, I guess. They had these stores that I could go into and get all the videos and I didn't have to buy it. I could just rent it and bring it back. And that was an innovation, but they stopped.
Yep.
Right? Like companies that, I look at like JCPenney versus Nordstrom, for example, where JCPenney's bankrupting and basically they're going to be gone in a couple of years if they're not already. And Nordstrom, they decided to do a little bit of innovation. So they have like an app called Outlook where you can shop online and they've done some, granted it's not Amazon level innovation, but they've innovated a little bit in that space, which maybe has just extended their life. Nike, I don't know what year they overtook Adidas as the number one, shoe retailer in the United States, in the world. They have never stopped innovating. It's going to be really hard for somebody to track them down. In fact, they've even and you think about what they're innovating in sport.
Yes.
Right? So like I think about when Tiger Woods got big, Guess who signed Tiger Woods? Nike did. They didn't even have golf anythings. They didn't have no golf clubs, no golf apparel, no anythings. But they were like, this guy's big. We want to hook our name to him. And there's a whole nother kind of niche inside of the sporting world that we can dominate. And by the way, today they dominate apparel. Golf apparel is almost exclusively Nike when I'm out on the golf courses these days, right? So it's this idea of constantly innovating. Like you mentioned the air pocket being inside the shoe. Some of these innovations, by the way, are almost as much marketing innovation as they are actual product innovation. Like, for example, when they made those first waffle shoes, right? They had air pocket inside of them, but it wasn't for many years that they actually displayed them visually. And so now we know, if you're a shoe person, Nikes have you can see the air pocket on the backs of them. And one of the kind of number one all-time bestsellers is that Air Max, which was the Air Max 1, which was the very first shoe that had that little Nike bubble in it. But that was an example. The innovation, they'd already made the innovation. They just did a marketing change that said, let's show it to everybody. Let's show them there's actually air in there that's making each step they take softer. So they are just constantly innovating, right? Whether it's things like the Oregon football team is actually a really good example of Nike innovating. They do the uniforms for the Oregon football team. And a lot of people know the Ducks football team because of their uniforms. They have these crazy color
neon green.
They got crazy color
yellow
combinations. They wear a different version of their uniform almost every game.
Every game they do, every season.
But there are things on the uniform. For example, they have on the shoulder pads on their defenders this certain type of material that makes the jersey a little bit more sticky, right? A little bit more kind of abrasive, so that when they go to tackle somebody, they stay connected to that person just a little bit more, right? So they're innovating constantly, even when it's something they're not going to sell a bunch more football jerseys because it's got that thing that helps Oregon football players tackle a little bit better, right? But that constant innovation is threaded throughout their entire organization. And I think it's pretty amazing that being number one, this is what got them there, but they've continued to double down on it.
Yeah, and innovation, I mean, again, if I read you their mission statement, it's to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And they talk about that a lot, that they have people involved on the teams. They have people that are out there. And if you go back, Bob, to episode number 64, we interviewed Kevin Carroll.
Yeah.
And Kevin Carroll, at one point in his career, was basically the mayor of Nike Town, is what he talked about. And they create such strong community in the world of Nike. You're mentioning the Oregon Ducks uniforms, and over the course of a football season, they will never wear the same uniform twice. There'll always be something different, even if you're like, I think I saw that one a few weeks ago.
Like,
no, they've moved the duck or they've moved this. One uniform every season is actually designed by a student at the school.
Really?
So there's a contest that they can submit what they think the uniform should look like, and one is picked every year to be the uniform that they wear on one of the games.
Creating community, creating a sense of like, man, like this company values our campus here. They're a part of what we do. Like,
correct. So folks, take the lessons of Nike. One, branding. What's the message you're sharing, and are you getting people to commit to it and become a part of it? Two, you don't have to create something brand new. You just have to innovate on something that already exists.
Every single person listening to this inside of your business, there's some process or product that can be improved.
Well, just look at Ben, right? Ben didn't build anything that wasn't, it was just, he needed it. He built something better than what was out there, and he's been able to grow his organization through it and these opportunities. So we've got innovation, right? We've got community being created, and we've got branding being consistent to who we are and what we stand for. Nike is a powerful, powerful company for us to have been able to spend.
Okay, let's get to the best part.
Yeah, you just want to get to the shoes.
Yeah, what kind of shoes?
All right, Bob. So I'm looking at a list in front of me and we did the top 10 ice cream flavors with you. And now I'm looking at the top 10 shoes, best-selling sneakers of 2019.
Okay, hold on, because this is really challenging. So here's what I'd like to do.
They all have strange names.
I want to give you the model of the shoe, not the year, because so for example, there's some Jordans on there. I know there's the Jordans on there somewhere, right? But they put out like 20 to 30 variations of Jordans in 2019. So I don't know exactly which ones are going to be on there. I'd probably guess like a Jordan 11. There's probably a Jordan 4 and a Jordan 3 on there. But so Jordan.
I don't even know what you're saying, just so you know. At least I understood when we said mint chip ice cream, you were saying. I got no idea what you just said.
Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. I want to give you like what I think are the models that are represented in those 10 different specific shoes, okay?
Okay, Bob.
All right, so I think there's a Jordan, and there's probably multiple pairs of Air Jordans on the list.
Okay.
I think there is an Air Max shoe of some sort on the list. I don't know if it's an Air Max 90 or an Air Max 1, or I'm not sure, but there'll be an Air Max.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's an Air Force 1. And then I will go, I do know the model.
Air Force 1 like the airplane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do know the model. It's going to be an Air Force 1. Okay, there should be one of those on the list. I'm going to guess, because this is not just a list of Nike shoes, I'm going to guess there's a Yeezy Adidas edition on there somewhere. There might be more than one if I'm remembering right.
I got to tell you, the number one shoe is as ugly as can be.
Is it?
It's just as ugly as can be looking at this, just so you know.
All right.
Ugly as can be.
Right. We might fight if it's one of my favorite brands here. Like, what if it's like Air Jordan 3 or 4? Like,
I don't know. We're going to find out in a second. All right, here we go.
Wait, and then there's probably, I think I'm going to guess there's a Converse shoe of some sort in that list. Nike owns Converse.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, isn't that Nike anyway?
It is, and they've brought it back, and, everybody, like, that's what my dad wore playing basketball, right? When he was
one of my buddies, Dave, growing up, Converse everywhere. It was Converse for him.
Okay, so what are?
All right, here we go.
I gave you, I don't know, 4
Number
or 5
10.
All right.
The Jordan 11 Retro.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Folks.
Red and black. They call that the bread.
It's the Space Jam. These are the ones that appeared in Space Jam.
There you go.
All right. And that was 1996. And this is the top 10 selling shoe of 19 still.
But the reason why is they remake them, right? So they remade this particular shoe, got remade in 2019. It hadn't been out since 1996. They remade it all those years later. And everybody who was a kid like me in 96, I wasn't a kid then, but they couldn't afford it then. They buy it now.
Got it. And the movie is being remade, of course.
It is.
All right. Number 9 is the Nike Air Max. You had that, the 97.
Okay.
And these are pretty ugly too. Water ripple looking, and they're
I have a
just
pair or
ugly.
2 of those.
Folks, these are ugly. All right. Number 8, you did pick a Converse. It is the Converse Chuck Taylor OX Low.
Yeah, the Chuck T's, buddy.
Now, to me, Converse, I always remember them being high tops.
Yeah.
But all right, here we go. Keep going down. 7 is Vans Ward.
Vans. I never would have. That actually shocks me. Vans? Wow, okay.
Yeah, you can get them for $60 at Famous Footwear.
Those are like the skateboard shoes,
yeah,
right? My skateboard buddies wore Vans.
All right, here you go. Number 6, you kind of had this, an Adidas Yeezy Boost 350 V2.
Yeah, the all whites.
Again, all whites, pretty strange looking. All right,
are.
Number 5 is the Air Jordan 4 Retro.
This is one of my favorite pairs. Definitely in my top 5 right here. And I was lucky enough to land these when they were released last year.
So you've got a pair of these sitting at home.
I do. Yeah.
I don't want to know how much they might be worth that you're just holding on to. Careful. It's like my comic collection.
No, I
that
actually
Mom
wear
got rid
these
of.
ones. They're not worth anything once you wear them, right? So I'm trying to get this year. I'm trying to change my mindset to like, I have these shoes to wear them. Like I enjoy wearing them, right?
Okay.
I don't think I'm ever going to sell them. So
do
why
you
not
jump
just wear
higher
'em?
like Michael?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay,
That's why I buy them.
All right, number 4 is the Adidas NMD R1. Okay, whatever. It's a woman's shoe. So there you go. They're making the top list. Good for them. Number 3, Nike Tanjun.
I've never even seen this shoe.
It gets
or
its name
heard
from
of
the
it.
Japanese word for simplicity, Bob. Comes in a variety of colors, available in men's, women's, and kids.
But super affordable. I mean, it's one of the more
$65.
affordable shoes on this list at
$65
$65 a pair.
Okay, number 2 is Nike Air Force 1 Low.
Yeah, Air Force One, baby.
There, you pick that one. And Bob, I'm telling you, the number one shoe, this has got to be the ugliest shoe. I think it's going to end up a picture in the Facebook group so you can all see this shoe. Okay. This is the Nike Air Max 270. Bob, it looks like a 2-year-old with crayons decorated.
Okay, hold on a second.
Talk to me about this shoe.
Well, I think what this is just one of the color variations, right? On this particular shoe.
No, this is all the color variations.
Yeah, it is all the color variations. Okay, but here's what they did, Chad. This is another innovation, right? They have in the Nike app, this was one of the shoes where what you could do is you could go in and customize the design of this shoe. And this is why this one was super popular. It released and they had, let's say 10 color variations, kind of the standard colors, right? But in the app, you can actually go in and for no additional charge for the cost of the shoe, you just have to wait a little bit longer to get it. You can totally customize it to be whatever colors you want and whatever. So again, another innovation in shoes, right? I don't just show up at the shoe store and go, I don't like that color, right? Oh, they only got this one in brown, dang. I can go on the app now and I can take these, and this Nike Air Max 270 was one of those customized editions they have where you can totally customize it out to any color. I'm going to guess this was like a 5-year-old that did this particular color variation because it is pretty crazy, but
pretty ugly. All right, Bob. We've now looked at Nike and what an amazing bunch of lessons we can learn from this power company that is out there. I'm looking forward to our business profiles of some other ones that we've got coming up. Folks, we know that you're in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/winmakegive. We know you're sharing this podcast with others. The only message we can say to you about it, just do it. Share it, review it, rate it, come back and listen again. Before you come back for the next episode, wash those hands. And as always, do good.